Canada and Australia are twins when it comes to one thing: having some of the worst housing bubbles on the planet. But here's the difference. Canada is finally admitting its mistakes and taking action. Meanwhile, Australia seems to be doubling down on nearly every mistake, which means the current housing crisis could just go on forever. So why is Canada crawling out of its housing mess while Australia is asleep at the wheel? I'm Biko Konstantinos, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get into it, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm here to bring you commentary on the big financial stuff that affects your life. And one of the biggest things affecting people right now is housing. Whether you own property or not, everyone needs a place to live, and that's why affordable housing is so bloody important. Now, to see what action Canada took to try and start improving its housing, let's check out the former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau.
Immigration. Let's talk about it.
Yes, let's talk about it. In Australia, you can't talk about immigration levels without being either labelled a racist or told it has no impact on housing. Well, common sense tells you the number of people requiring shelter definitely has an impact on the housing market. And because of this, it should be discussed and debated extremely robustly, in my opinion.
In the last 2 years, our population has grown really fast, like baby boom fast.
Yes, Canada went absolutely nuts on population growth. But guess who else did? Australia, baby. Australia.
And increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests.
I don't know the full truth about that, but in my experience, things can only be exploited when they're allowed to be exploited. Like many people in Australia believe our overseas student program is just a way for many foreigners to obtain permanent residency in Australia.
So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years.
Recognizing an issue and doing something major about it is the exact way to go. Australia's borders reopened after the pandemic about 3.5 years ago, and since then we've seen insane house price growth, ridiculous rent surges, but also the lowest rental vacancy rates on record. So there's definitely a bloody issue with Australian housing. But is action being taken? The only action I see is first home buyer schemes being promised in the election, which will result in more demand for housing, pushing house prices even higher. That's the wrong kind of freaking action.
Looking back, when the post-pandemic boom cooled and businesses no longer needed the additional labor help, as a federal team, we could have acted quicker and turned off the taps faster.
My oath they could have. Canada's gone full immigration and housing Ponzi, and their overall economy is in massive trouble. However, Australia is following right on their footsteps. But at least with Canada, they're admitting they made some mistakes and seem to be taking corrective action. Here's the Australian Prime Minister being asked whether we got it wrong on immigration levels.
PM, we got a lot of questions, more than we can ask, about immigration. People expressing that they feel like immigration levels were too high. Do you concede they got a bit too high?
When the borders were lifted, there was always going to be a spike.
As you can see, Australia admits no mistakes and takes no responsibility. And because of that, I don't have any faith that they're going to take the necessary action to improve this current housing disaster.
So this year, we did exactly that for the first time. We laid out a plan that sets targets for both permanent and temporary residents. This way, we're getting the full breakdown of people coming into our country, so we can prepare the homes and infrastructure needed to support them.
If you're not planning the population growth based on available housing and infrastructure, what the heck are you doing? Here's Senator Bragg at a recent Senate estimate session asking about Australia's planning regarding population growth.
Okay, so what is the piece of work that exists in the Treasury that shows the impact of having 1 million people come into the country in the last 2 years and only building 160,000 houses? Where does that exist, that analysis? Who's got that? You got it here today?
No, we don't have that analysis.
Does it exist?
We haven't done that. We haven't undertaken that analysis.
Oh, well, that's bad, isn't it?
Canada's new immigration plan is straightforward. Lower the number of new immigrants coming into Canada, both temporary and permanent. Between the amount of people coming and going, we'll effectively pause population growth for the next 2 years.
That's a big bloody reduction. basically having a population growth of net zero for 2 years. This is exactly what I believe Australia should be doing to ease the overall demand for housing.
Our cap on international students is already bringing rental prices down in big cities, and as we keep that cap in place, rents will keep coming down.
Well, what do you know? Reducing immigration levels is actually translating to lower rent prices. While here in Australia, everyone keeps saying that immigration levels has either zero impact or negligible impact on the housing market. That's not what Canada's saying. Now, to see the impact in Canada since these changes were made, let's check out this article from Leith Van Onselen. As you can see here, on the left, Canada's population really surged between 2022 and 2024. But the population growth projection for all of Canada for the following 3 years is only 0.3. So they really are trying to do a massive 180 degrees when it comes to population growth. By making these changes, Canada's population growth is now much more aligned with their housing construction capacity. Let's see the real impact of Canada's immigration changes on the rental market. As you can see here, the average asking national rent price has now decreased for 6 straight months. So the asking price for Canadian rentals is going down, but more than that, it continues to go down. Even if those reduction amounts aren't huge, it's still an unbelievable improvement to their overall housing affordability. And for many renters, it just might be the lifeline that they need. Now let's look at how Canadian population growth impacts actual rent prices. Here you can see the population growth in red and the rental inflation in blue. And ever since 1990, these have been very closely aligned. And you can see after COVID how population surged as well as rents. But recently you can see population growth plummeting, but rental inflation has also dropped sharply. Now if we look at the number of non-permanent residents in Canada compared to rental inflation, it's extremely obvious that the number of non-permanent residents has a direct impact on rent prices. And that's because when you have more people requiring accommodation, it puts more demand on the housing market, which boosts up rent prices. But when you have less demand, that actually puts downward pressure on rent prices, so they either fall or rise nowhere near as fast. So Canada have now admitted they went way too hard on immigration levels after the pandemic. But now they're taking drastic action and basically pausing all population growth for the next 3 years. This is already showing great improvements in their housing market and will continue to see housing affordability improve. So my question is, why isn't Australia doing the exact same thing? I'm Biko Konstantinos.